One of this year's nominees for Best Animated Short Film is the stop-motion animated piece Sister, which looks at the relationship between a boy and his sister. We are joined by the film's director, Siqi Song. I'm Charlie Bright of Gold Derby, and the first question I want to ask you, Siqi, is where did the idea for this short come from?
The idea of this film originally came from a question that I got asked a lot growing up when I was living in China. I'm actually the second child in my family, but most of my friends and peers that was born during the 90s in China that didn't have siblings. So when they find out I have a brother, they always ask me, what does it feel like to grow up with a sibling? So I constantly answering the question, this question to my friends. So I eventually want to make a film about siblings. And that's where the original idea of this film comes from.
And one of the things I loved about it was the use of stop motion and the figures that I can see behind you, actually, that you used for the animation. They look very different than any other stop motion that I had seen before. What were those figures made out of?
The puppets of the film were made out of felted wool. So the wool texture is kind of like a popular craft material people use to make tiny figures or plants. So originally I saw those crafts and I really liked the softness and then the color palette and everything about this the material. So I try to use it in my animation. Also because the material is really flexible and economically, practically is also really cheap to buy, and it comes with really different, a variety of different colors. So I started to try to put that into the film and make puppets with it.
And there is a bit of a political message in the film, but with the way that some of the stuff is presented, I feel like some people might read a bit into the wrong political message of the film. And so I'm curious as to what you would say the political messages you're trying to send with the movie.
The message that I try to say through the film, I think mostly just about showing experiences, because I feel like the people, like I grew up in China, I was born in China, like living in a generation like during the one-child policy period that we didn't think that's, there could be a different life. Like for us, growing up mostly like by ourselves, even I have a brother, but because of one-child policy, I was not able to grow up with my sibling and like live with my family a lot. I was sent away to raised in a boarding school. So for me, like growing up like alone is kind of like really common in China. But when I moved here and then I found out, oh, there is a totally different world. Like people who grew up in different countries, most of them have several siblings. Like one of my friends have 9 siblings. So I feel this is a really different world and lives that we lived in. So I just want to make a film show what lives are like to grow up in a different country. And then I think, yeah, some people take this film more about, this might be, a message to accusing abortion or something. But I think to me, it's mostly about, showing like different experiences and showing like, the life that could be different if the policy are different and we were born in different countries.
And recently, China actually, the Chinese Communist Party lifted the one-child policy. I believe now it's a 2-child policy maximum, which still presents a lot of problems. But what are your hopes for the children in China that will now possibly get to have that experience of growing up with a sibling?
I think it's great. The great thing about people, the country open up to two children policy is, at least people have more options. And for us, what's interesting is because the people who are similar age as me, we all born in the one-child policy period, and then now we all grew up. Like many of my friends who are similar age as me, they already get married and start having children. And then, but certainly, the policy has opened up, and then people are facing this. People have more options to make when they're thinking about the next generation. But most of them, because they didn't have chance to experience of growing up with a sibling, some of them might not be comfortable or like have experience of raising two children. So I think I'm not making this film to encourage people to have more children if they choose not to. It's totally up to them. But I do think people need to have, make a smarter decisions based on their financial or, their plan for the future, because whatever decisions they make is going to affect the lives of their children. Yeah. Just to, think about, make better decisions depends on what they want.
And so this is not your only connection to being an Oscar nominee yourself. You also did work on the film Missing Link, correct?
Yes. I worked on that film for over a year after I graduated from Fine Arts.
What were the contributions that you helped make to Missing Link?
I was a model maker, so I worked in the art department for creating lots of small props and models for the film. So like many of the, Missing Link has the most amazing craft in terms of making the most beautiful puppets and sets in the movie. So I'm really glad I had the experience of working with such amazing group of artists to create this masterpiece.
Yeah, and that film just recently had that success at the Golden Globes, picking up the Best Animated Film prize, which was really neat for that film as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, really happy for everyone who worked on the film.
So curious, what was it like finding out that this short film that you had made that's so personal for you had gotten nominated for an Oscar for Best Animation Short Subject?
Wow, it's like really amazing for me. Like originally, I made this film mostly just from a personal reason. I just want to make a film to show experience. I was not very thinking about how the film will be received by the audience, especially at this step that was nominated by Oscar. Like the recognition it gets is really surprising for me, but also like it really encouraged me to make films more similar like this, because I think the reason I want to make this film originally also because I have never seen ourselves on the big screen. The animation, like not just animation, like just film wise, there's not a lot of films that tell stories from our side, our point of view. So I think it's really great, encourage for me to keep creating films that, finding more unique stories from our point of view to tell. And, it's a great, I'm really grateful for the recognition from the Academy that given to the film and to me.
Well, Siqi Song, thank you so much for joining us. We wish you all the best at the Oscars next month. And to our viewers, make sure that you click subscribe. And don't forget to go to goldderby.com and make your predictions and see if you can outsmart the smartest prognosticators in Hollywood. Again, Siqi, thank you so much.
Thank you, you too. Thank you for your time.